Hello and welcome back to Florida Foodie. I'm your host, Lisa Bell. Kids growing up in underserved communities face a lot of challenges, especially when it comes to food. Many of these areas are known as what's called a food desert, which means fresh, healthy food is not readily available to the people who live there, oftentimes requiring a long commute just to get to a decent grocery store. So Grow Orlando is an organization looking to make a change in those communities through farming and landscaping, giving kids access to fresh produce while teaching them financial and business skills as well. So to tell us all about Grow Orlando and its mission, we are joined today by the founder, Frank Bailey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Lisa. What an introduction.
Well, it is wonderful to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Were raised in Orlando, went to school in Orlando.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you even get involved in something like this?
Oh, man. Besides God telling me to do it, I've been farming and landscaping my whole life, really. It started with going to my grandparents' house and eating green beans from her garden for the first time and being just blown away. It's like, what is this? It's like, oh, it's green beans. It's like, why does it taste different than the ones we eat at home? I want this, And so she took me out to her farm and then made me work. And so fast forward, my first job actually was starting a landscaping business with my father at 13 years old called F. Bailey Inc.
Okay.
And, just a typical story of a child going around getting lots to mow, and we turned it into an actual business affair where we had equipment and started hiring people. And when I started playing football, I couldn't stand the smell of grass. I was tackling people in grass. I was picking up grass. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I thought to myself, that was a great learning experience. A lot of work ethic involved. And then I'm going to go pursue my passions, music, basketball, and entrepreneurship. And I did that. It was a lot of fun. But when I was teaching, I found there was a lot of gaps in the education model, and it's very difficult to fill those gaps based on the Common Core requirements, which are very necessary, mind you. But a lot of life skills lessons are being kind of slipping through the cracks. So I thought, we need to help fill those gaps, and I can't do it inside as a teacher. So I started pursuing opportunities to stretch my entrepreneurship wings, and wanted to use land because it's a very high commodity, and didn't want to sell it because it didn't mesh with me at the time. So it's like, how do you turn land into money? It's like, oh, you reaping and sowing. It's one seed will give you hundreds of plants. That's a great return. Let's do that. And we started doing that. We had farmers market stands in the YMCAs for a little while, and we were testing products, and it was great. And we went to the Tangelo Park YMCA, and we were going to do an enrichment class in Tangelo Park. I don't know if you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we gave each student a plant, and we said, if you bring this plant back in 2 weeks, we were going to teach them about health and teach them about wellness and teach them about the properties and the qualities of healthy food. We're like, you know what? No. The plant that you have has the label on the pot that we gave it to you. It costs like 95 cents. So bring it back in 2 weeks. It will have grown, which means its value would have increased, and you would have taken care of it. So that makes it something that I'm in demand for. I'll pay you $2 for it. But if you tell me about it, tell me all the healthy qualities of it, and you market it up a little bit, you could even repot it if you want, we'll negotiate. One student brought their plant back because they all forgot. It's 2 weeks later. We're talking 8 years old to 18. And so we did a little Shark Tank thing in the front of the room, and he got $3.25 because, supply was low and demand was high. So, and when students saw that there was actual value being transferred and economy being created on this micro scale to their benefit, everybody had a plant the next week. Some plants we've never seen before. But they all knew about the plant. They were telling me about how healthy it was. They were telling me how I can cook it. They were telling, one student even went so far as to get his mother's clay pot and said, Mr. Frank, this pot has sentimental value. And so I'm giving it to you. He's 9 years old. And it's like, how do you know what sentimental means? Like, here, and we're able to use those plants to resell and at least get our money back. And if not, we use them in our farmland. So it was a win-win, but at the same time, we didn't have to teach them anything. We just provided them with the opportunity. And so, this is it. And so that's how Grow Orlando kind of came to be.
I absolutely love everything you just said. But it's so key. If no one ever shows you where your food comes from, how do you know? And if all you think is that your food comes out of this bag or this box, you don't know that those green beans actually started as a seed in the ground.
Absolutely.
And just that ability to interact with your food that way and watch it grow obviously makes you curious and makes kids curious and makes them want to try all of this healthy food. Yeah. But there's this big disconnect. We don't have gardens like they did, 50 years ago or 40 years ago even. So how are you bridging that gap?
Well, we're calling our students, actually, to your point, stewards of creation, because when they take a seed and they give it life, or they help provide it with everything it needs to become life, and then they feed into it, they are feeling that accountability and that responsibility being just kind of matured in front of them. It's like, I did that. And it was so beautiful. It's
such common sense, too. And not only are you helping their physical health, their nutrition and their physical health, but also the mental health aspect.
Yeah, we call farming, gardening, active meditation. I mean, because when you're out there, you're working hard, but some of the stuff that you're doing, you're connecting with the earth. You're helping the plants that are going to provide you with either sustenance, financially, or nutritionally. You're helping them with a better quality of life where it's at. And then having us say, okay, so how do you do that for yourself? And whenever a cloud comes by, because, it's Florida, everybody stops and we just breathe. It's so important to do. We bridge that gap, going back to what you were asking, by seeing the market, seeing the local market. It's like, so guys, who eats? It's like, well, everybody. Like, what do you eat? Food. Where does it come from? After a while, because the grocery store, McDonald's, it's like, no, where do they get it from? Where do they get it from? Where do they get it from? The earth. Okay. What do we have at our disposal? The earth. And we show them the local trends. Everybody wants to eat local. Right. All of our local farms are now subdivisions. Yes. So there's a big demand and the supply is going away. What can you do? What can we do? And you said food deserts earlier. We're starting to coin the term food apartheid now, because a food desert implies that it's naturally occurring, because a desert is a natural occurrence in the environment, and I don't think lack of food access is naturally occurring in these socioeconomic communities. And also, there's such an opportunity for variety and vibrance within those communities of food that them not being brought to the forefront, and like you were talking about transportation, having to go to a location that has the type of food that you want and needing a vehicle to do so. I live like 2 minutes away from a Publix or an Aldi's. I can walk there. And I also have a garden in my backyard. I can pick from that whenever I need to. But these students don't have the opportunity. So we want to be able to bring that to the community and say, hey, community, what do you want? Let's engage with them. And a lot of food deserts, you'll find either, especially the Caribbeans or the Asians, the Easterners, their backyards chock full of gardens. And so we saw that, and we're like, and these are foods that you don't see in a regular grocery store, like kalaloo. The only place I saw kalaloo in a Publix is in a can in the ethnic food aisle. Whereas Mrs. Johnson in her backyard, she has an entire grove of kalaloo. And it's fresh right there.
I don't even know what it is. I've never heard of it before.
It's basically Caribbean spinach meets kale, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. I love it, but I found out I'm allergic.
Okay.
It's sad. It's not a good day in my life. But yeah, so we want to be able to bring a food sovereignty, give them the access to be able to make an equitable change through food and through nutrition for themselves, for their community, and then for the surrounding community as well. Because when a rising tide raises all ships.
So since many people don't have the opportunity to have a backyard garden,
Right.
Perhaps they live in an apartment or a condo or whatever, are you providing that space for people?
So we're really excited. This year we partnered with St. Luke's United Methodist Church, Orlando Baptist Temple, in talks with people like Universal, some family farms, like the Oxford Farm, and we're getting in touch with a couple of farm directors to use unutilized land space and church and community land to retrofit it to be a micro farm. And we're creating a network of that, so that way we can help support that farm network, that micro farm. So,
Which I love that, because there are organizations that are looking, that do micro farms. But what is the cost associated for those organizations? Are you just taking it over and say, hey, let me use your land and I'll come and plant this and turn it into a micro farm? Or do people have to pay to participate?
So I'll give you an example. Orlando Baptist Temple. They are on North Powers Drive in between Silver Star and Claricona and Coy. They agreed to be a part of our micro farm network. It's their farm. It can't be our farm because there has to be ownership within the community. And so we come in with our experts. So we come in with some beginning funding from No Kids Hungry grant that we got earlier this year. Hallelujah. And we do some community canvassing. We say, hey, what does the community want? Let's engage the community in what's going on. We had a cleaning day last Thursday, and it wound up being, there was like 30 kids,
Wow.
7 adults, and we're all out there just clearing out the land and talking about what's going on. Then what we do, we talk with them about what they want to grow. We talk with the community about what they want to grow. We want to engage the youth, particularly in the youth programs, to say, we're going to teach you how to grow it. We're going to show you how to grow it. You're going to help us grow it. And then you're going to grow it yourselves, while the food that's being grown is going towards that church's mission. That church's mission could be to feed the homeless, or it could be to create a sustainable farm for missions or what have you. So we would sell the produce to the community. Actually, technically, the community is selling it to themselves, because the youth are going to be the ones that are growing it, or the farmers that we source from that community are going to be the ones growing it and selling it to the community and to our other network partners that we sell to in restaurants and grocery stores and what have you. And a portion of that comes back to us so that we can continue operations. Most of it goes back to, they get paid for growing the food, and the church gets paid for having the site there, and they can use those funds for whatever they want. It could be for missions, it could be for capital advancements, it could be for the elderly. It's up to them. And then what we do is we basically share resources between micro farms. So we're under negotiations with a memorandum of understanding with Shepherd's Hope, and Shepherd's Hope is a health clinic. So their focus is health and wellness. And so most of the food that we're going to grow there is going to be high price commodities like ginger and turmeric and things like ginseng, stuff like that. And it's going to be completely different than Orlando Baptist Temple, which might want to focus on mental health and leadership.
It's amazing to see, what you guys are doing. And I know it seems in the past 5 years or so, there seems to be kind of like this grassroots effort, no pun intended, of various
all
groups.
The puns.
Yeah,
All
right? I know. But there's 4 Roots in Orlando that's trying to do something similar, where they are sharing the produce with local schools and trying to partner with local schools to teach kids about where the food comes from. And there is such a need for this healthy sort of produce. I can't imagine you're managing this, though, all by yourself. So are you?
Not anymore.
No. Okay. No. Who's helping you?
We have Embar Payne, who's helping me out a lot. We also have Bianca Ephraim as our farm director. We have Hannah Murphy. She's our kind of design architect.
And are these all volunteers?
No, now they're actually paid now.
Okay.
We have paid workers actually helping. We also have a lot of strong volunteers from St. Luke's. Like Sue Jesse, she's retired VP from Lockheed Martin, and Amy Winslow and Hope Sherman, Miriam just stay.
Well, what I have discovered is obviously living in Florida, the opportunity to have a garden year round is wonderful.
It's great.
And there are so many people who are expert gardeners who love to just volunteer and may not want it in their own backyard, but love to help out others.
Like Skip and Andrea Carter, and St. Luke's is our first farm site, and there's 2,000 square foot farm out there right now with the Sprouts House. And we've just transitioned that to be volunteer run, still student focused, but these other farm sites as well, they're each individual. They are each independent. However, through their independence, we can create an interdependence that'll hopefully build community resiliency and neighbors looking after each other. So if we get 10 cubic yards of compost, we can distribute that to whoever needs it instead of everybody fighting for the same funding. We can work on it together.
So if someone has a space or has extra time and would like to volunteer their gardening services or has extra compost.
Bring it on.
Right. How do they contact you?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can contact me. Just go on Facebook, Grow Orlando Inc., Instagram, grow_Orlando, groworlando.com. Also, Grow It Forward has a Facebook as well. There is, and that you should find us out there. My name's Frank Bailey. Not too many Frank Baileys look like me, so go on Facebook and you'll see me there.
Now, what's the reaction been like once you've gone into these communities from people who live there and who maybe are benefiting now from this fresh produce that's growing, right down the street from where they live?
Yeah, no, they love it. I'm trying to meet the capacity of the need for youth employment through things like this because it's healthy. It's wealthy, it's wise. We're working together with Jeff Wynn and Angie Wynn to create a financial literacy business where 10% because all of the students that work with us are contracted, but we're transitioning to where they're food entrepreneurs. And 10% of whatever funding they get is going to go towards an actual fund that each student has shares in, equal to the amount they distribute. And that'll be where they get their wealth management. The community loves it. I mean, we have food that they actually want, instead of food that, whatever is available. It is a challenge to get people to understand seasons. It's probably not a good idea to eat blueberries in November in Florida because we don't know where they came from.
Right.
And they probably don't taste the same as they would in March because that's when they're plucked here. And so having diversity in your plate is really important. And I tell you, a lot of the people that come out to farm and they bring their kids or the youth that are working for volunteers or being paid, vegetable has been ingrained in their brain to be disgusting. But when they see it and then they try it, like, wait, this is different. Right. This tomato tastes a lot sweeter than the tomatoes I'm used to. It's like, well, that's because it's still alive when you put it in your mouth.
It is amazing what a difference that can make in the minds of little young eaters.
Oh my gosh,
when they can be a part of the cultivation of fruits and vegetables.
So speaking of little young eaters, oh man, I'm so glad you said that. Cherie and Pastor Anthony with the Finding the Lost Sheep, the Impact Center, they're working with Maxey Elementary School and the parents of those elementary school students to do a gardening program. And they are also signed on to the Microfarm Network. So it's going to be completely different. But they have a large trailer that we're going to grow mushrooms in. And that'll be the financial sustainable arm. And then we're going to help teach them how to grow their own food and teach them how to make garden boxes, and they can go out and sell it to the neighbors and stuff. But really, then they can make they can make the healthiest food that they want. And I mean, we picked an onion yesterday to put into and celery and corn. And it's just so good. It
is amazing. And, you are a former public school teacher.
Yes.
And this seems so basic to so many people. Oh, go work in the garden, plant some vegetables. But again, we talked about it earlier, the benefits of spending that one-on-one time with, a parent or a grandparent, whatever, outside doing this and then eating that healthy food is just such a huge win-win. You mentioned also, though, some of your partners and some of your donations and grants that you've received. A big one has come from Universal.
Well, Universal was able to come in and provide us with a lot of produce and starter plants. They're helping us with some training for some of our professional development on the back end. They're coming out to view some of our activities, if you will. And, you know, going back to what you said with the seeming so basic, there's a big need right now for landscapers, for irrigation specialists, for the agricultural community. And the industry in Florida is the second largest in America, and the last time I checked, it was at $21 billion.
Yeah.
And
when you tell kids about the amount of money they can make being an irrigation specialist,
oh my gosh, they're like, really?
Yes.
A lot of my students are, I'd say 3 of them are halfway through their welding degree right now because they found out about it through the technical school. A lot of every single successful person I've ever talked with or interviewed, I'm going to ask you, what was your first job?
My first job
was the first thing.
I worked at a fast food place.
You worked,
yes,
in the food industry.
Yes,
look at that.
Yes, and then I worked at a grocery store.
Oh well, yes. There it is. And you know, Andy Sheeter, who's on my board, he owns the Crooked Can. I was like, what is the first thing you ever did? It's like, I was in my granddad's. His garden. I was like, how big was this? He had 5 acres. It's like, that's not a garden. Yeah. You know, and you talk to anybody who's made it far along and you ask them what their first jobs were. It's something that developed work ethic.
I used to mow my parents' lawn and help in the garden, but I didn't get paid for it.
Well,
that was just what you're going to do.
You had clothing.
Okay, Mom and Dad.
You know what they're going to say.
Right, yeah.
It's like, you want to eat tonight?
Yes.
You know? They let you go to your friend's house.
Okay.
You
Never
know?
mind.
Value exchange. Value exchange. That's all. It just wasn't monetary.
Right. So you guys have been growing so much. What is next for Grow Orlando?
We're going to be seeking to meet the demands of potential that we have laid access to. This is our first year going for funding. You know, we wanted to make sure that it works. Yeah. And so in the beginning, it was like, if the program works, it'll pay for itself. And it does. And so now we have to meet the demands, maintain and develop new partnerships, current partnerships, former partnerships. I talked with John Rivers. Gosh, that was January of 2019 when the Four Roots Farm was coming about. And he said, you know, they have a big demand to fill with Advent Health and Four Rivers, and I think it's Food and Nutrition Services. It's like, would you be able to grow some food to help supplement our needs? It's like, yes. Of course we can, because that not only will benefit us, but now we can provide more opportunity to the people that we're teaching how to do this to be a part of the industry, like lucratively. Right. And that's, to us, is so important.
And some people are afraid of partnerships, but I mean, they can be so beneficial. And this is a perfect example of how there is huge need, and you got to work with a lot of people to
and they
make
have
it all
technical
happen.
Training that we can complement with as well. We're in places they're not. They're in places we're not. And so I think it's, and I don't, you know, as long as the missions align and we're able to help the people, provide them with opportunity and experience, not just, you know, education, then that's really what's important. You know, if somebody's in a hole, I can put food in a bucket and put the bucket down there for them to eat, or I can give them a ladder. I'd like to do both, you know, so let's see if we can make that happen.
Well, Frank Bailey with Grow Orlando, thank you so much for joining us on Florida Foodie.
Me,
yes, we wish you the best, and we know we're probably going to be hearing about you a lot in the future and seeing you all over the place, making a big difference.
Let's make it happen.
Let's do it.
Hey, you out there, if you haven't, go check out Norman the Gnome. It's a children's book. It has changed.
That was not requested by me.
No, it wasn't. What do you mean?
And I didn't ask you to say that.
Oh, how do you know Norman the Gnome?
Okay. No, it is a great book.
That was fun.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Channel 6. Thanks, Florida Foodie. Thanks, Mom. Love you. Please stop posting this over and over again. Just one time is good. I love you.
Bye, Mom.
Bye. You'll love her.
Thank you for listening to Florida Foodie. We'd also like to thank our guest Frank Bailey from Grow Orlando. You can find Grow Orlando online at groworlando.org or on Facebook, search for Grow Orlando Inc. Be sure to follow Lisa Bell online as well. Search Lisa Bell News on Facebook and Instagram, or search Lisa Bell News 6 on Twitter. Also, a big thank you to our technical producers, Derek Mosier and Ryan Haley. I'm the show's producer, Thomas Mates. Florida Foodie is available to download wherever you get your podcasts. Please take the time to rate and review us. You can find videos of all of our podcasts at clickorlando.com/podcasts. And to stay up on all the latest foodie news, head to clickorlando.com/Florida Foodie.